Hello YouTube, and hello viewers, and welcome back to yet another episode of creating a 2D side-scroller in Unreal Engine 4. My name is Wayne and I've been taking you for all these episodes currently, and we're getting quite far into the series. I didn't think it was going to be this big, but I'm going to keep going because people are like dropping suggestions and stuff, so as long as you keep giving me stuff to do, I'll keep producing it. There's no question about that. So what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at creating our checkpoint system. We've done quite a few things. We've looked at things like collision, we've used range, and in today's session I'm going to show you how to use tags. Now this is something I haven't shown yet, and it's going to be pretty vital to our lesson today. It does sort of get away from our collision and also our range and things like that. It's just something new. I just want to show you different things you can do in Unreal, instead of using all these trigger volumes and it sort of gets messy using all that type of stuff. But this session is going to be quite heavy. There's a lot of stuff we need to take in on this session. There's a few blueprints we're going to create. There's quite a few bits and pieces that we're going to look at for this session. So remember, if you do get a little bit lost, just pause that video and then restart it again once you've caught up and etc. Right, so without further ado, let's get ourselves started. So what we currently have was our system of our ladder working, so we managed to do that. Congratulations to Sammy. I'll give you a shout out in this time around, just because you got it right. And it was pretty spot on. I mean, you're learning quite a lot in this session, which I'm pretty proud about. So yeah, keep it up and hopefully you're enjoying the series. So the ladder system's all working. I'll update that later on in the episode. There's no need to do it right now, but I can do it near the end because I'm a teacher, so homework is my speciality. So I'll just leave you to see if you can work it out yourself, just like Sammy did. So with the checkpoint system, there's a few things we need to take into consideration. We need to save the game. So you're going to learn how to save a game in this episode, but we're not going to save tons of data. What we're going to save is just the current location of the character. Oh, sorry, not the character, the checkpoint. So once the character hits the checkpoint, it will save that into a file, which we can then call back later on. So that's going to be very vital to us. So we need to make one of them. And we also need to make a blueprint that's going to be our checkpoint holder. So basically we can just plot them around our little world and obviously get them working. So first off, let's go into our blueprints and let's make a new folder because we're just going to keep this nice and neat. And we're going to call this checkpoints. Okay, so we'll just call it checkpoints, the folder, because it's going to hold all our stuff in regards to checkpoints that we need to use. So we're going to open up that folder, and there's two things we need to create. The very first thing we need to create is a blueprint class. Oh, what was that? Okay, an actor. And we're going to call this BP underscore checkpoint. Right, and that's going to be in reference to our checkpoint. And if you can imagine, these are the things we're just going to plot in our world. So we're just going to drop them in every now and again, just to obviously allow the user to have certain checkpoints within the game. And the second thing we need to create is another blueprint class, but this time we can't find it in this section. We actually have to go into all classes. And we're going to type in save game. And you'll notice that we get the object of a save game class. Very important that we use this. We can't use an actor for this one, so make sure you do get the right one, which is a save game. I'm going to call this save underscore info. Now basically the save info, all we're going to capture is his current location. You could capture other things, for example, if you hold things like bullet amounts, score, leveling, health, etc. I mean, you could store as much as you like into this, so when he does go back to the checkpoint, he can have all that information when he goes back. But in our tutorial, what's going to happen is that the user is going to die, so he's going to run out of health and he's going to run out of lives, and we'll just use that checkpoint system to respawn him back into that checkpoint location, and also give him back his 3 lives, and give him full health again, and obviously reset his animations. So that's going to be our system. How you set your system might be completely different to mine. Alright, so the first thing is, very easy, we're going to open up this save info. And all we need in this instance is just 2 things. Actually 1. We'll just use 1 in this case. So we're going to make a new variable. And this variable is going to be called check location. And basically what this is going to do, it's going to save the location of our current character. Now remember, it's not going to be a boolean because that makes no sense. We're not going to use floats or anything this time, but we're actually going to use this transform here. Actually, no, I'm completely wrong. It's going to be a vector. We're going to save all the information into our vector control. Now basically the vector is going to hold its X, Y, and Z. Very important because you could place these checkpoints anywhere inside your level. So say, for example, it's above the character, we're going to need the Z axes. And also for distance-wise, we might need the X. So you're going to need the X and Z. Y is not much of an issue, so we don't need to worry about that. There's no point of having that at all, to be honest. Okay, so we compile and save that. That's all we need to do. Obviously, we need to make that editable, so just make sure you click on the eyeball, because this is always going to change. So just make sure you click on that. That'll just make it editable, or you can click here, which will also change it to editable. So once we've done that, compile and save, and that's pretty much it. We'll call back to that every now and again. There's no need to do it right now, so we can always just jump back to that when need be. So we can obviously close that down. And now we're going to open up our BP checkpoint. All right. Now this is where things start to get a little bit interesting. Okay. And what we need to do is we need to add, in this case, I mean, you could add a sprite if you wanted to, but I'm going to show you something different, which is a billboard. Okay. Now a billboard looks like a dinosaur. And basically a billboard is invisible in the level, but you could add sprites and things to it if needs be. I mean, it doesn't really matter what we do with that. But you could add a sprite, you could add an animation. I mean, you could do whatever you like in this case. But what I'm going to do is with the billboard, I'm going to change the different sprites that are shown. For example, the save location is going to be his beginning location. And then we're also going to have this checkpoint location where it's going to save every single checkpoint from there on. The reason why I'm showing you a save location is because just in case you've got more than one level, you need to know this. But if you only got one level, then obviously you don't need to really worry about checkpoints and all that type of system. So once we've got that billboard, all we need to do is then add a collision box. In this case, we're just going to add a collision. I did say we're going to use tags, but for now, we obviously need to collide into this object, so we're not going to use range in this time, but we're just going to put a collision box for now. And we're going to call this, let's just say, I don't know, just leave it as box. It doesn't really bother me what we call it in this case. But what we're actually going to do, and what I'm going to show you that's new, is we're going to use this thing called a construct script. Now, with this construction script, it allows us to change values inside the game, so inside this area. So if we drop, for example, this checkpoint in, we can resize things, we can change them in the details panel here, which makes it easier for whoever's creating the game, or even yourself. I mean, it makes things a lot more easier. So what we need to do in this construction script is we're going to, first of all, get our box. Right? Now, basically, this is our collision box. And what we're going to be able to do is resize this to our own preference. So this box. So to do this, we drag off this node, and we're going to say set box extend. So just there. Okay? And then we're going to plug this into here. And obviously, this value here is we're going to promote this to a variable. Now, this is going to be the one we'll be able to edit inside our design view. So we're going to obviously have to give this a name. So we could call this, I don't know, change hitbox. That makes sense to us. We're just going to change the hitbox. Obviously, just make these visible. It's very important that we start doing that now in these series, that we start making them visible because these are changing values. So always make sure that is visible. And what we're going to do now is we need to, let me just check what we need to do next. So, all right, let's put a branch in because we need to check two values. What we're going to do is we're going to swap between a save and a checkpoint sign. So we're going to either have a save or a checkpoint. Obviously, save will then save all the data at its current location, so at its spawn point. And then the checkpoint is then going to update that information. Okay, so what we can do is promote this to a variable. And we're just going to call this one, this variable, we're just going to call that checkpoint. Just so we know that we can, and this is going to be important because we're going to call this later on. So it's very good to have that because we're going to be using this quite a lot. So obviously make that visible. Plug this into our branch, just like that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to set our two sprites. So on a true, we're going to set our sprite. Now we haven't got a sprite yet, but I have got them for you. Okay, so we're going to set our sprite onto our billboard. We can copy this and paste underneath. I'm obviously plugged into false. So if we at a checkpoint, right? So if we are currently at a checkpoint, so if this becomes true, or we select it to be true, and I'll explain what that means in a minute, it'll change the sprite to whatever we like. And then obviously if it's false, it'll be a save location. So you can pretty much play between the two. Now I said to you we're going to put some sprites in. I've pre-made some. Again, I'll add them into this description. So it's okay if you want to steal them, or you can make your own. Remember, this could be animations or just a basic sprite. It's entirely up to you. So I'm just going to import them in. So I just made this really ugly C and this ugly S. All right, so just those two. We can apply paper to these if you want, just so we can have clarity within our game. So this is saying if the checkpoint is true, then obviously we want to show our checkpoint. Okay, so our checkpoint. If it's false, we then want to show our save. Okay, so our save location. Again, this is more visually orientated for the end user, so we're going to see how this works. So let's have a look. So if we go to the viewport, you'll notice that I have this C here. Now that's known as the checkpoint. But if I click on the blueprint, notice I've got things like, here we go. So we can change the values of our hitbox here, and we can also say if it's a checkpoint or a save. See that? So obviously if it's checkpoint, then obviously it's going to be a C. If we turn it off, it's going to be a save point location for us. All right. So if I have to drag that in the game, for example, so let's just change this to front view. Let's drag that in. Notice it's very tiny because obviously our box is very small, but I can now change my values in this location. So instead of me always going into the blueprint to try and fix that, I can just do it on the fly now. So I don't need to spend all my time trying to fix things in blueprints when I can just enable them and disable them in this location here. Right? But we're not going to bring it in just yet, so we're going to take that out for now. Okay? So once that's all completed, what we need to do next is we need to go into our character. As you're probably saying to me, why do we need to go into our character? Well, because we need to give the character a tag. All right, now we've never done that, but we're going to just go into our 2D side-scroller character. All right, and make sure you click on this 2D side-scroller character self here, and in our details panel, go right down to the bottom. Stupid Steam. You'll notice it'll stop at actor, but there's this little advanced button down here. Click on that, carry on going right down, and you'll notice this thing called a tag. Now what this does, it'll apply a tag onto the character. So if we ever need to reference the character, so for example, if the character has this tag, then we can do something. You could have done the same with the bullet, you could have done the same with the ladder, you could have done everything with tags if you wanted to, but I didn't want to touch on this yet because obviously this is more from beginners going into intermediate, and soon we'll get to expert. So obviously we're just climbing that educational ladder. So with the tag, we're going to create a new tag, and we're going to call this, let's give him a name. Let's call him Tommy. Right? So we're going to give the character name Tommy. Don't know why that came into my head, but we're just going to call him Tommy in this instance. Okay? Once that's all completed, we can now head ourselves back into the checkpoint, but this time we're going to head into the event graph. So now this is where everything starts to work with our character. All right? Now, we did create a collision box, so this one here, but we're not going to say on begin overlap because that's not what we want to do. What we want to do is we want to attach it to the player tag. Now, there isn't anything saying on actor player tag hit in this list here, so we have to physically put that in. So we're going to right click and we're going to say event actor begin overlap. And there we go. So event actor begin overlap. Now what we want to do is we want to attach this to our actor. Now to find out what actor we want to attach it to, we made that tag, remember? So we can drag off here and we can say actor has tag. All right? And with that tag, we just give him his name. So we called him Tommy. Right? So we just called him Tommy in this example. By the looks of it, we need to have a branch, which is true. We need to have a branch here to make it work. So we're just going to drag off this. Off that node, I'm going to type in branch. Obviously, attach these two nodes together. So now we're saying, well, if we do this, so if we do happen to overlap, or the actor overlaps that collision box here, but it's just the actor that touches it with this tag here, Then we need to save all our information, for example, where he is, and then we need to save it to a file so we can call it back later. And this is very easy to do. All we do is, if it's true, so if we do touch it, we need to create save game objects. Now that save game object is that save actor class that we created, hence this class here. So we can call that, which is called save info, and that's where we want to attach it to. But also to do this, we need to cast to this blueprint that we created. So we need to cast to that. So we're going to say cast to save info. I'm going to plug the return into the object. So basically we can access any information from that into here. Now, as you know, I like everything to work with variables, so I'm going to obviously right click on this, promote that to a variable, just so I can call this on later on. Instead of doing all this again, just makes my life a little bit more easier. And I'm just going to call this save info, which is going to save all my anything that I want to require with the save info. I can then call that back. But who do we need to save? What do we need to save? Well, we need to save also information from our character, right? So from our 2D side scroller character. So we need to get some information from him as well. So we can also cast to our 2D side scroller character. Very important that we do this. And our object, as we have done many times in these tutorials, is to get our player controller. Okay, so all we're doing is casting to all this information, so we can get information about where our character is. Now it's going to say warning, because obviously we're not finished with this just yet. Yeah, it's okay. It's alright. It just 2D side scroller doesn't inherit. It doesn't matter. We'll just keep going on. It's okay. Okay. So our next step after we've done that is we're going to promote this one to a variable. So we can call this again later on, because it's very important that we do grab that information. So we're going to call this char info. So all this information that we need about the character will be in this variable here. For example, location, and etc. So we need to get the location where the character is, and then we need to save it into our save info. Now we need to break this into two parts. We need to break it in, for example, we need to snap it into, so we need to say, we either, if it's true, we then save the information of where it is currently, but if it's false, then we can grab other information that we require. So if we hit a checkpoint, obviously save that, but if we don't have a checkpoint, we need to go back to a current version. So we need to branch, right? So we need to branch here because we need a true and false, like so. And what we need to find out is we need to find out where this, or what we created that will allow us to do this. Now, if you remember correctly, in our construction script, we have this thing called checkpoint. Okay, and this is going to allow us to work out if this is a checkpoint or a save point. Right, so back to our event graph, and we're going to get that checkpoint. So here it is here. Just going to drag that in, and we're going to get him. Right, so we're going to get that checkpoint, and we're just going to plug that into our branch. Right, so we're just going to say, if we're on that checkpoint, then what do we do? Right, so if we're touching the checkpoint, what happens? So if it's true, okay, all we're going to do is we're going to set, we need to set our location. I can't remember what we called it. Can you guys remember what we called it? I need to open up this again. Checkpoints, save info, check location. That's what it's called. So check location. So check location. Why is that not opening? What have I done incorrectly here? So cast to save info, set to that, get our char, and then our check location. Why is that not popping? Let's check set, check location. There it is. I don't know why I had to turn it off. It's strange. And that should have popped up by itself. But we can set the check location, and that check location is this here. Okay, so remember that's from that section. Okay. Oh, I know why it's done that. Because I haven't pulled my char, my save across, which has caused that issue. So let's make this a little bit more easier. So remember we made these two here. So save info and char info. If I had to pull the char info, so the character, we can say get. Now, if I had to say set location, let's just put the context sensitive back on. Oh, what did I call it? Say set. Oh man, would I? Oh, no, I should still be able to. So we need to get the actor location. So we get the actor location, and our return value will be set. What do we call it? I keep forgetting what we call it. Check location. So check. Oh, I wonder why that's not working. Alright, guess we're going to have to do it the hard way. So we're going to set check location. So we turn that off. So let's find that again. So set the check location. And because we got the character information, right, remember, we can take all the values, that's fine, or we can grab the X, Y, and Z. Depending on how you want to do this, you could split it. So we could split it into these values. Again, this is all about preference. So if that's what you want to do, obviously just set that and then just drag these nodes in. Depending on what you want to grab in regards to location, you just all pop them in. All right. Obviously with this bit, we need to get our save location, so our save info, and we just plug that in. Oh, that's why it didn't work. Our character doesn't have the set value. It's our save info that's got the value. Oh my goodness, I'm so newbie today. I'm so sorry guys that took so long. It is the save info that holds the information for our set variable. Silly me. Okay. Obviously we need to do the opposite. So if we have a false statement, what we can do is just copy this. So copy both of these, place it underneath. All right. So we just need to set the location of where the current character is. Okay. And our last thing to do is to then save our information, right? So we need to save it to a file. So we can pull across and we can say save game to slot, right? So save game to slot. And what we want to save is we're going to get our save info. I'm going to plug that in to there. But we need to give it a name, right? So we need to give whatever we're saving a name in regards to what it's going to save into a file. So we could actually just call this we'll just call it lock for location, just nice and easy so we don't have to keep tinkering and messing. So we're just going to call it lock, keep it all lowercase as well, it's just a little bit more easier. Okay, obviously it's going to do a caps there. We need to then duplicate this, so we're going to copy that and paste it underneath. So we also then need to save down here too, like so. Okay, and that's pretty much everything we need to know about the checkpoint. I don't know why it keeps shouting at me here. I don't know why it's saying warning. Play controller. Does that mean derp. Let's get play character. I'm so sorry guys, all these videos are playing a toll on me right now. It's actually get play character, not the controller. The controller is when you're using it. Okay. So now we got all that data, so the character info and also our save info, and it's now saving into our slot called lock. Okay, what we can do is once that's all done, we can test this. Right, so we can test to see if this is working. So let's just print a string. So print a string. Okay, and what we can print, just plug those in, and we can see if our location's working. So we had the save, so let's just grab that. So get that, and we're gonna get. Watch this work now because it's right. So get location. Put that back on. Oh man, why is it not working now? Why are we not getting our information? Oh, editable. Why are you being so... Oh, there we go. It's because it wasn't editable. All right, so get the location. And let's just plug that in. So basically, if I start playing this now, so if we just put the blueprint in, So put our blueprint into here, for example. Let's change the hitbox size just so it makes more reference to me. So you can see I can scale it to as big as I like. I can make it as wide as I like. Okay. And obviously that's going to be a checkpoint. If we dupe this across, put it onto our character or just in front, we can change that to a save game, just like that. Right, so we can do that. Compile and play. If I hit that now, notice that you can see some text flying down the screen. It's very quick, but you can see it actually going down the screen every time I hit that save location. So that means that's working. If I hit the checkbox, you can see, the checkpoint is doing exactly the same thing. Apologies for the printing. You could turn all that off if you wanted to. Right, but yeah, it is working. We can see that the save location is working and the checkpoint location is also working at the same time. So I'm going to call that a session because we're pretty much over 20 minutes. I know we haven't really set it up properly yet, but what we are going to look at is we're now going to start working at how do we now make that work inside the game. So when I die, for example, how do I spawn at these points here? So thank you very much for joining me. Apologies for all the mistakes I've made today. I am really tired. All these video clips are really playing a big toll on me right now. But in our next episode, we'll look at implementing that system into our character. So when he does die, I will then spawn at those locations. So remember, this is only part 1. We will make another part, and I'll see you in that next episode. I'm actually going to record that now, and then also upload it tonight. So they'll come together. All right, thank you very much. Nice taking for the session. Remember, like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.